They see your actions but they will never understand your silence. They witness your kindness but mistake it for an invitation. They observe your solitude and label it as loneliness, never grasping that it is a fortress. They watch you help others without hesitation, yet they are stunned by the impenetrable walls you've built around your trust. This perceived contradiction is not a flaw in your character. It is the very signature of your strength, a complex algorithm of survival and self-preservation that the ordinary mind cannot compute. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Sigma male community. Today we are not here to offer simple advice. We are here to dissect a fundamental truth, to pull back the curtain on why the most self-reliant men on earth operate on a principle that baffles the masses: the stark, deliberate separation of help from trust. We will explore the 11 pillars that uphold this fortress of the self, revealing that this isn't about cynicism, but about a profound, hard-won wisdom rooted in the ancient art of self-mastery. 1. The untamed self, core independence. A man who operates from a Sigma mindset views his independence not as a preference, but as the very air he breathes. It is the sovereign territory of his soul, a non-negotiable landscape where he is the sole cartographer and king. He carves his own path through the wilderness of life, with the compass of self-reliance as his only true guide. In this context, solitude is not a state of lack but a chosen sanctuary, a high-walled garden where his thoughts can grow untrampled by the clumsy footing of outside opinion. When he chooses to help another, it is an act of supreme autonomy, a demonstration of his own surplus of strength. He gives on his own terms, an extension of his will, dictated entirely by his internal code of conduct and never by the coercive pull of social expectation or the desire for external validation. This fiercely guarded independence is precisely why trust is such a foreign and costly currency. To trust is to surrender a piece of that sovereignty. It demands the lowering of the drawbridge to his inner fortress, consciously allowing another's influence, their reliability, and their character to become a variable in his own life's equation. This act of vulnerability feels like a direct assault on the very self-containment he has so meticulously constructed over a lifetime. He offers assistance freely because it is an act that reinforces his strength and autonomy. It is a projection of his power. To accept or place trust, however, requires admitting a potential need or dependency, a compromise that his entire being is engineered to reject. It is a crack in the foundation of the untamed self, a risk his operating system simply will not permit. 2. The invisible calculus, hyperobservation. The Sigma male does not merely look at the world. He scans it, deciphers it, and catalogs it with the relentless precision of a deep space probe. Every conversation is a data stream, every interaction a complex variable. He logs the subtle flicker of an eye, the hesitation in a voice, the stark difference between a person's words and their actions when they believe no one is watching. This is not paranoia, it is a state of high-definition reality perception, a survival mechanism honed over years of navigating the often treacherous currents of human nature. He moves through the social landscape like a grandmaster at a chessboard, analyzing patterns, predicting moves, and understanding the deep-seated motivations that drive the players before most people even realize a game is being played. Because of this constant, almost subconscious analysis, trust is never a gift to be given freely. It is a final verdict reached after an exhaustive period of silent surveillance. It is the result of a long and arduous trial held in the private court of his observation, where character is the only evidence that matters. He watches how you handle pressure, how you react when you lose, and most importantly, how you treat those who can do nothing for you. Words are smoke and grand gestures are meaningless theater. Only a sustained, verifiable pattern of consistent behavior, especially under duress, can begin to earn a flicker of his credibility. He can therefore perform a great act of generosity for someone in one moment, while his analytical mind is simultaneously and coldly filing away the 1,000 tiny inconsistencies that scream unreliable. His help is situational and driven by his code. His trust, however, is a verdict earned only through the unforgiving gauntlet of his constant, silent observation. 3. The uncompromised gift, pure altruism. When a Sigma male extends a hand to help, the transaction is pure, sterile, and complete in the moment of its execution. There is only one party to the internal contract, his own conscience. His assistance creates zero debt, carries zero expectation, and banks no future favors. It is an action that springs from an ironclad internal ethic, a simple and powerful equation. This is the right thing to do, therefore I will do it. He does not seek applause for his actions, nor does he demand loyalty in return. He is not building a social network or investing in a relationship through his aid. It is kindness stripped of all the usual social barter, a pure expression of his personal code, performed for an audience of one, himself. It is this very purity, this profound detachment from outcome, that creates the vast chasm between his generosity and his trust. Just because he helped you move a mountain does not mean he is inviting you to set up camp in his valley. His act of help was a sovereign decision, complete in and of itself, and mistaking this ethical action for emotional investment is a fundamental and common error. He gives so freely and so powerfully precisely because he expects nothing in return, not your gratitude, not your reciprocity, and certainly not your friendship. This emotional firewall allows him to intervene, to provide aid, and to act with honor, all without suffering the dangerous entanglements and potential disruptions that placing trust in another inevitably requires. He keeps his emotional landscape pristine and undisturbed, a testament to his mastery over his own inner world. Think about the walls you've built. They weren't erected on a whim, were they? Every brick is a lesson learned the hard way. You built this fortress not to shut the world out entirely, but to control who earns the right to step inside. That tension between the help you freely give and the trust you fiercely withhold? It's not hypocrisy, it's your operating system. You understand this isn't weakness, it's a hard-won wisdom. If you are nodding your head right now, it is because you recognize the silent strategy that others mistake for coldness. This channel gets it. We see the profound strength behind the silence. 4. The sacred inner sanctum, fear of vulnerability. Within the mind of the Sigma, vulnerability is not seen as a pathway to intimacy but as a strategic and potentially fatal flaw. It is an exposed flank in the heat of battle, an open gate in a besieged city. His entire strength is built upon the foundation of unassailable self-containment, a complete mastery over his own internal world, his emotions, his reactions, and his state of being. To reveal doubt, to expose insecurity, or to admit to a profound need feels like willingly disarming himself in the middle of hostile territory. He has learned, often through the brutal lessons of past betrayals, that the emotional weaknesses you expose are the very ammunition that others will eventually collect and use against you. Therefore, he helps from a position of unassailable strength. He is the giver, the provider, the rock, untouched by need and therefore incorruptible. The very act of asking for help or even revealing the capacity to need it is anathema to his core programming. Deep, meaningful connections as the world defines them often require a pact of mutual vulnerability, a shared exposure that his survival instincts scream at him to avoid at all costs. He may demonstrate his care through decisive action, through loyalty, through providing a shield. But the raw, messy, and vulnerable core of his being? That remains under a permanent and unbreakable lockdown, guarded by a lifetime of lessons that taught him emotional armor isn't just an option, it is the essential uniform for survival. 5. Scars over skepticism, betrayal's legacy. This intensely guarded and observant nature is not a philosophical position arrived at through detached intellectual exercise. It is scar tissue. It is the lasting legacy of real, searing betrayals, inflicted by those who were once allowed inside the walls, be they confidants, partners, or even family. These were not mere disappointments. They were seismic events that fundamentally rewired his understanding of human dynamics. The moment that trust was shattered and used against him did not just cause pain. It installed a new, permanent lens through which he views the world. This lens constantly scans for the potential for betrayal that he now knows lurks beneath every surface-level smile and every convenient promise. He did not allow this pain to curdle into bitterness. Instead, he transmuted it into perception. The lesson he learned was not all people are evil, but rather the more stoic and pragmatic truth. Trust is a high-stakes gamble with exceptionally poor odds. As a result, he can extend a hand to lift you from a ditch, acting with an unwavering integrity that even his critics would admire, while simultaneously filing your every action into his internal proof-required cabinet. His kindness flows freely because, to him, it costs little and aligns with his code. His trust, however, is a precious and finite reserve, dispersed only after an exhaustive and lengthy period of due diligence confirms that the recipient is not a ghost of betrayals past. The pain is not carried as a grudge, it is carried as an unblinking sentinel at the gate. 6. The sovereign realm, control imperative. For the Sigma male, control is not about dominating others or manipulating his environment. It is about the absolute and inviolable sovereignty of his inner kingdom. He is the undisputed ruler of his own thoughts, his emotional responses, his energy, and his personal space. In this kingdom he has fought long and hard to establish order, peace, and rational governance. Trust, in its purest form, represents the ultimate concession of this control. It is the act of granting another person a diplomatic visa into this meticulously governed territory, giving them the power to affect its climate, to disrupt its peace, and to potentially sow chaos within its ordered world. Helping another is an act of dominion performed within his own realm. He controls the terms, the timing, the extent, and the purpose of the aid. It is an expenditure of his resources that he directs completely. Trust, however, hands a portion of the keys to the kingdom to someone else, making his internal state subject to their reliability, their whims, and their character. A single breach of that trust, a broken promise, a revealed secret, a moment of carelessness, can destabilize the entire equilibrium he has sacrificed so much to maintain. He sees this existential risk with perfect clarity and chooses to avoid it. It is not a matter of malice, but of profound self-preservation. He builds moats around his fortress not to be cruel, but to preserve the sovereign state of self that is his most prized creation. 7. The burden of foresight, predictive pain. The Sigma's highly developed power of observation grants him a grim and often isolating superpower, the ability to see the betrayal coming long before it arrives. He connects the dots that others ignore, he sees the subtle tells of a hidden agenda, and he senses the hairline cracks in a person's facade that will eventually shatter under pressure. This isn't pessimism clouding his judgment, it is pure, unfiltered pattern recognition, honed to the sharpness of a surgeon's scalpel. He has seen this particular play before, he knows how it ends, and he can predict the inevitable pain of the final act. This foresight creates a paralyzing dilemma. Why would he willingly walk into a trap that he so clearly sees laid out before him? To place trust in someone whose future failure he can already predict feels like an act of deliberate self-sabotage, a violation of his own rational mind. Protecting his trust is therefore not just an act of caution, it is an act of refusing to ignore the wisdom of his own hard-earned foresight. He would rather be judged by others as cold or distant than endure the profound self-inflicted wound of ignoring the flashing red lights and blaring sirens his own mind is producing. The act of helping someone does not blind him to their flaws. In fact, it often puts those very flaws under a microscope, highlighting them in stark and unavoidable relief. 8. The economy of energy, strategic reserve. Trust is not just an emotional risk. For the Sigma male, it is a massive and often unsustainable expenditure of energy. The entire process, the initial vetting of a person's character, the ongoing maintenance of the relationship, and the catastrophic recovery required after an inevitable breach, drains a strategic reserve of energy that he guards with fierce jealousy. This energy is the finite fuel for his mission, his passions, his personal growth, and the essential solitude required to recharge his own spirit. To him, frivolous or misplaced trust is an unaffordable luxury, a leak in the fuel tank that jeopardizes the entire journey. He learns to help with maximum efficiency. His assistance consists of targeted, decisive actions that align with his internal code but require a limited and contained emotional output. Trust, by contrast, is an open-ended commitment that demands constant monitoring, emotional availability, and the exhausting mental overhead of vulnerability management. It is a high-interest loan with no guaranteed return. He therefore chooses to invest his finite energy where it will yield the highest and most reliable dividend. In himself, in his work, and in the handful of endeavors that have passed his ruthless cost-benefit analysis. He gives practical aid freely because it is a discreet and efficient transaction. He withholds trust because it is a high-overhead, high-risk investment that he can rarely afford to make. 9. The integrity imperative, code above connection. The Sigma's powerful drive to help others does not originate from a desire for connection or social acceptance. It stems from something far more rigid and profound, an unshakable internal code of conduct, a personal constitution written in stone. For him, acting with integrity and honor is a non-negotiable principle of his existence. He will do the right thing simply because it is the right thing, irrespective of the recipient's worthiness, their gratitude, or their potential for reciprocity. His integrity is the bedrock of his identity, and his acts of help are simply the natural manifestation of living that truth. His actions are a reflection of his own character, not the other person's. This is the critical distinction. Trust, unlike helping, necessarily involves the messy, unpredictable, and often unreliable variable of another person's character. His personal code demands that he act rightly, but it does not demand that he be naive or that he ignore the mountain of evidence suggesting unreliability in others. He can therefore perfectly fulfill his own ethical duty to assist someone in need, while simultaneously recognizing that the same person falls drastically short of the stringent standards of character and consistency required for him to grant them genuine trust. His actions are a statement about his values. His trust is an assessment of yours. These two judgments operate on fundamentally different and non-overlapping planes. 10. The self as sanctuary, peace as priority. More than wealth, status, or relationships, the Sigma male cherishes and guards his own inner peace. It is the sacred sanctuary he has meticulously constructed to insulate himself from the chaos, drama, and emotional volatility of the outside world. He views needless conflict, emotional outbursts, and psychological games as a form of toxic radiation that contaminates his inner environment. Trust, by its very nature, is an open invitation for potential disruption. It opens the door to the arguments, the misunderstandings, the unmet expectations, and the emotional roller coasters that other people seem to navigate as a matter of course. He sees this drama not as an exciting part of life, but as a thief of focus, energy, and tranquility. Helping, when executed correctly from his detached and sovereign position, can be a clean, contained, and precise action that does not disturb his core tranquility. Trust, however, is like handing someone a key to the front door of his sanctuary. Why risk a hurricane when you have spent a lifetime cultivating a perfect and productive calm? Protecting his inner peace is not a selfish act. It is an essential prerequisite for his high-level functioning, his clarity of thought, and his overall well-being. He will gladly extend a hand to help you across the moat, but only a vanishingly small number of people will ever be invited to cross the drawbridge and enter the castle walls where his most precious asset, his serenity, resides. The price of admission is impossibly high: proven, unwavering, and demonstrated peacekeeping. 11. Trust is sacred right, earned, never given. Ultimately, for the Sigma male, genuine trust is not a casual social courtesy to be exchanged like a handshake. It is a sacred right. It is the final and highest honor that can be bestowed, and it is earned only through a grueling, arduous, and often unseen initiation process. It requires absolute and consistent proof of character, demonstrated not in the easy times, but under the crushing pressure of fire. It demands an unwavering display of loyalty when it is inconvenient, and a profound, demonstrable respect for his boundaries and his sovereignty over a significant period of time. It is not something he gives away, it is something he consecrates upon another, and the ceremony is exceptionally rare. This profound scarcity is not a symptom of cruelty but of reverence. He understands the immense weight and responsibility of true trust, and he knows how destructive it is when misplaced. To hand it out cheaply would be to diminish its value, to profane the sacred, and to insult the tiny few who have genuinely earned it through years of impeccable conduct and proven character. The formidable wall he builds is not a barrier designed to keep everyone out forever. It is the perimeter wall of a temple, protecting something profoundly rare, valuable, and sacred within. He helps readily and with great force because his personal code is generous and his strength is abundant. He trusts sparingly and with extreme prejudice because the gift he offers is nothing less than priceless. So you see, the walls are not there because he is broken. The walls are there because he has refused to be broken. The distance is not a sign of weakness, but a strategy of ultimate strength. This isn't about a fear of people, it's about a deep, stoic understanding of human nature and a commitment to preserving the one thing you can truly control, your own inner citadel. It's about choosing to be the stormproof harbor rather than a ship tossed on the chaotic seas of other people's unreliability. This is the conversation we are having here at the Sigma male community, a space for men who understand that true strength is built from the inside out. Take a moment to consider the architecture of your own fortress. If this video resonated with the unspoken code that you live by, press the like button to signal your understanding. Go to the comments and share your own insight. What was the lesson that laid your foundation stone? For those of you who have found your way here for the first time, Understand that this is more than just a channel. It is a signal in the static, a gathering of minds who choose to walk their own path. Subscribe and ring the notification bell, because our discussions are designed for those who refuse to follow the herd. And finally, if you know another man who navigates the world by this same internal compass, who is often misunderstood for his silence and his strength, share this video with him. Let him know he is not alone. Stay sovereign. Stay vigilant. And continue to build.